What's up, everybody? I am back doing my spoiler review of James Gunn's Superman, written by James Gunn, cinematography by James Gunn, grip by James Gunn, uh, you know, uh, catering by James Gunn. Did I mention it was done by James Gunn? So, yeah, I've been eager to talk about this, but I wanted to give people time to actually go to the theater, watch it, and wrap their mind around it at least somewhat before I give my overall critique. Um, so, uh, yeah, I want to go in depth with how I feel about it and what I expect going forward at the tail end of this. But let me just cover the basis of the story. And the way James Gunn set it up was pretty smart. But anyway, well, like I said, written by James Gunn, directed by James Gunn. Um, but we got the newest actor to take up the role of Superman, David Cornsweet. We got Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, Edie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, Anthony Carrigan as Metamorpho, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Isabella Marced as Hawk Girl, Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen. You might remember him from Everybody Hates Chris, Chris's best friend, which is kind of, it took me a minute. I was like, hey man, ain't that kid from Everybody Hates Chris? Sarah Sampaio as Eve Tessmacher, Wendell Pierce as Perry White, yeah. So the way the movie opens, it's kind of like what we have in a trailer. So I think that's kind of smart. That's how people should do trailers, in my opinion, where you just get probably like the beginning of it for the most part. So when you walk into it, you don't know the entire story, but you get from some text that metahumans have existed in this universe for 3 centuries. And like 3 years ago, Superman, sprouted up and kind of established himself. So it's pretty much Superman year 3. So the world pretty much is getting used to Superman. And we see him crash land in the Arctic, getting his butt whooped by this armored villain from this other country, who, in I guess like a different, prior to this movie starting, Superman interjected himself in a war against these two nations, one of which is more superior than the other. Superman intervened to prevent people from dying, and lightly tortured the dictator from this other country that was superior, to prevent him from overstepping again. So now Superman goes to the thanks to Krypto, dragging him to the Fortress of Solitude, which, mind you, I don't mind having Krypto the Superdog in this. Personal nitpick, that's not Krypto in my opinion, because Krypto isn't fluffy or super hairy. He's like I forgot what like the typical breed, but when you look up, Crypto the Superdog, the cartoon show, it looks like that. That's how most iterations of Crypto should be, an all white dog that's not that furry. But in any case, Superman gets dragged to the Forces of Solitude, where a bunch of the Superman robots are taking him to the healing chamber. And once he's like 80% good, he flies back to go deal with this armored thug. And he prevents him from doing crazy devastations. And honestly, I think most of this film, in my opinion, I can't help but feel that this is like James Gunn trying to not clap back, but pretty much saying, after the whole Man of Steel situation with all the collateral damage and, snapping an enemy's neck, it's like, okay, I want to save everybody, even little squirrels, which that part really sunk. I mean, Div Cornsweet did an amazing job at this. A lot of these actors did an amazing job, in my opinion. But Cornsweet really sold it for me in terms of being the newest iteration of Superman, and the fact that we got him visually saving everybody, right down to the squirrels. I was like, okay, that's Superman. I was like, yeah, he will. And then the fact that he, prevents this giant monster from like crashing into the building, I was like, yeah. It's like, yeah, this is not a Snyder thing. He's gonna make sure nothing gets demolished. The city's gonna be like relatively prevented from complete collapse. So he gets smashed into the ground, and the suited foe flies off, and it turns out to be this Ultraman figure, which I'll get to that soon, clearly working for Lex. And turns out that Dictator is working with Lex in order to completely ruin Superman's reputation, which I always thought that was going to be some guy in disguise or some kind of shapeshifter. No, it was actually a real guy. So one of the cart vendors pulls Superman out of the rubble because he established himself pretty thoroughly and people really respect and love him, which annoys the hell out of Lex Luthor. Which he goes to the government, who for the most part don't trust Superman, but has no reason to do anything about it because all he's done for the past 3 years is help people. And there's nothing they can even do to even restrain him, let alone hold him for questioning. But Lex says, I'll figure it out. And he ends up going to the Forces of Solitude and, taking out the robots and kidnapping his dog eventually. But we see Cornsweet in his Clark Kent persona, and it's not bad. So far as I've seen, it's not bad, but I don't get enough of him. It's like you only have a Clark Kent thing twice in this entire film, and it's not enough, at least for me, to say like, oh, that's a spot on Clark Kent. I need more time with that. I don't have enough time to say like, oh, because let's be honest, everybody who plays like Superman always is striving for the Christopher Reeve kind of pedestal. Some get close, but it's like a balancing act to make sure that Clark Kent is, good, at the same time Superman is good. They equally have to be right on the money. Is one's better than the other, it kind of is uneven. I won't say it won't work, but it's just like it's a little lopsided. Um, so while at Lois's apartment, her and which I gotta say, Rachel Brosnahan playing an amazing Lois Lane. But I love the fact that, because brilliantly, because I think the Superman and Spider-Man and Batman are one of those heroes that you really don't need to rehash the origin story all over again. It's been done to death. I think by and large, you know, at least 5 different generations of people can tell you their origin story verbatim. It's been done. Let's cut to the freaking chase. So you just throw in Superman, 3 months into a relationship with Lois Lane. She knows secret identity. Matter of fact, we see the Injustice gang, with Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, and Hawkgirl. They know who he is. So there's been some foundation built here. So we can just cut right to the chase. I appreciate that. And we see like her and Clark getting it on a little bit. But, he agrees to let her interview him because he's been getting all the stories directly from himself, which she thinks is kind of unfair because you pretty much know the answers already because, that's, how's that right? Allow me to do the interview and let's see how it goes. And can you be able to hold up the questioning? And it's like, sure. And this is where my one of my criticisms I have for the film, not the fact that he is being questioned by Lois Lane. We've seen that, happen in multiple iterations. Is the fact that his, I don't even go as far as say whiny outbursts, but his like, his lack of stoicism, where he just kind of like, people are going to die, and it's like, it's like, I get what James Gunn is trying to convey in this scene, and it's not wrong for him to be emotional about that because in Superman's mind, there was a war going on. Yes, and Lois is correct too. Look, whether you like it or not, you are an American citizen. You taking it upon yourself to essentially invade another country, insert yourself in a war that's very complicated, on just the very I want to say surface level, but it's just like, on the just like the kind of like a very childlike mindset of people are hurt. I'm going to save people, and I want get the bad guy to stop because if I essentially threaten him like, hey, you leave these people alone, and I'll be back. And she's like, you can't just do that because. Which, by the way, they never really truly resolve, or at least they set it up, and there's no, there's like a physical resolution, but there's no moral resolution because Superman has a stance, Lois has a stance, and they kind of, I'm not saying like you need like a direct answer for the audience, but there gotta be some type of dialogue going on to where it's kind of like with the whole Sokovia Accords with the Civil War thing in Marvel movie, where it's like they don't give you an exact answer at the end of it all. They kind of, there's been like the biggest debate throughout the entire film, and we could have had that where like, okay, Superman has a stance, Lois and most of the population, or at least the world government, has a particular stance. Do superheroes have the right to just interject in foreign upheavals completely uh, overstepping red tape and all this other stuff, not knowing the full details, just operating on just a single mindset of I gotta help people, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. You know, I kind of wish that was at the very least, because I think main people's problem with this film, and I kind of agree, is a little bloated. You could at least have at least a couple of things, the Lex stuff and this stuff. That is it. And of course, the Justice Gang could be in uh, uh, interwoven in that a little bit, but it's still the whole. Personally, I like Metamorpho, but we didn't need the whole baby situation or like I don't know. You could already have it as part of the Injustice Gang or something like that, and I don't know. It just seems like this added thing. Okay, he can just be like part of the gang. We don't even know about any babies or anything like that, and just have like Injustice Gang challenging Superman's like, you're overstepping. We're working for the American government. Uh, it's kind of like what you got in the Black Adam movie, where the Justice Society is holding like a stance about superheroes don't kill and interfering in certain foreign conflicts that we can't just intercede on because it's cause further strife more so than it needs to be. I'm just saying there's like a wider dialogue that could be had here that they kind of just let on the floor. Then my biggest criticism, and I think everybody's biggest criticism, is the whole Jor-El and keep forgetting Superman's biological mother's name. I keep blanking on that one. Crap. Well, his biological parents, which, by the way, Jor-El is played by Bradley Cooper, which is kind of weird. I'm not saying it's bad. It wasn't bad, but because he only had like a few minutes of screen time. But it's just that Jor-El could have been played by almost anybody. It was such a nothing burger of a role. You could have cast any unknown actor to fill this role, and it is you can easily say that about Russell Crowe and Man of Steel, but you know what I mean. It's just like, why? I can make an argument for Russell Crowe being more I want to say worthy, but for the lack of a better word, worthy of being put in this role, because he offers some air of patriarchal presence, like an older statesman type of authority figure. Bradley Cooper seems like, the handsome, fun uncle kind of attitude. He's not at that level of what Russell Crowe is. But that is my personal feeling about that. So yeah, I'm not too big on Superman kind of losing his composure like that. You can have him make a stance, but he didn't need to have that big outcry, because it's kind of like, we don't need to be that super emotional. So these two kind of have their first fight. So Superman leaves. Then Luthor has this new Otis, and it was a more competent Otis, which kind of, I guess we got our few comedic people here already, but I remember my Otis from the first Superman movie being a little funny. This one seems like just like a Cleveland Brown looking dude, and it's like, not my Otis. I'm sorry, it's not my Otis. He needs to be a little bit bumbling. But they released this little Pokemon, pretty much, that grows into a freaking kaiju. Where did he get it? I don't know. They don't really explain it. And I've seen certain people already on the internet who got first screening. Gee, I wonder how they get first screening. It's like they read the same doggone script, and it's like, why did they repeat this doggone thing? And they almost all, you can look this up, they almost all say the exact same thing. And like, I really don't want to just throw it around the word shill, but it's the lack of a better word I can find, where they just say like, oh, it's like a comic book straight off the page or something akin to that. And it's like they're all saying the exact same thing. It's kind of weird. And it don't seem like they offer any legit fair criticism. They all seem like they're, because this movie's, it's fine. It's not woke. There's no agenda, thank God. I think it's like a fine film, like a fine start to the DC universe, because that's the biggest thing. Will this make or break the Warner Brothers? Do this have any kind of sustainability moving forward for James Gunn and Warner Brothers? I give it a slight yes. You probably, because right now there's kind of like a split amongst the audience. I think it's slightly in the positive, and I think James Gunn kind of just barely eked out, because it's not perfect. Nobody's expected it to be perfect, but this movie has to succeed, and I think it's just barely got it, in my opinion, at least for right now. It's still early, but I think it's just barely, just made it through for the most part. But these, some people on the internet just like jerking it off, like it's like, oh my God, it's like this movie's gonna feed the solve world hunger or something. Like, calm down, okay? I really don't, because clearly, like, you want to make sure you get those early screenings for Warner Brothers next time, so you better like give this super positive, glowing review with just very little, softball criticisms. That annoys me personally. Be real. It's like, I know it's kind of your job, but at the same time, you gotta like, you can like it all you want. It was just like, don't like, piss on my head and tell me it's raining kind of situation. Okay, just like, be like straight up. Don't BS us. So that's what I'm trying not to do. I'm trying not to BS people. I want to give my overall honest thoughts and the stuff that like I really don't think it works. At least tell you what I think don't work in this film. So, what else? Superman and the Injustice gang stop this giant kaiju monster. Like I said, we see Superman trying to save everybody, and on top of that, make sure this monster, is incapacitated, because he telling Mr. Terrific, look, I'm pretty sure we can save this creature. We can probably send it to some place where it can live in peace and not hurt anybody. I'm about to say Aldrich Hodge, but that's not his name. That's Hawkman in Black Adam, which I kind of hope he comes back as, not Black Adam. Hawkman and Black Adam. I really do hope he comes back as Hawkman, so we can have him and Hawk Girl together. But not Aldrich Hodge, but Edie Gathegi. I love him. All three of the Injustice gang, all those actors did an incredible job. They're so much fun, and I love the fact that Mr. Terrific just rolls his eyes. Oh my God, this dude, just like, you want to save everybody. He's just like such a goody two shoes and such a Boy Scout. He's kind of like, kind of cringe at it. But of course, he ends up killing the doggone thing, which kind of bothers Superman a bit. And I like uh uh Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner. Uh, uh, Especially when it comes to his constructs, where he's just like taking on, like, again ahead of myself, but he takes on like you know uh and some foreign military, and he's just kind of like, because he's like been at being a Green Lantern quite some time, and he's kind of like, making hand constructs and just brushing aside all those tanks, and you see like a bunch of middle fingers just rising up off the ground and crushing down. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's Guy Gardner. But my personal nitpick, just a little bit of a nitpick, and this is my personal thing, because I know that Guy Gardner is actual, despite him being kind of like an a-hole, he is a, competent Green Lantern, and he has so much willpower that his ring often sparks with energy, because it can barely contain all that willpower he has. That's what makes him so effective. And he would have been the first choice of Abin Sur's ring bearer, but Hal Jordan was the closer one, unfortunately. But he later become a Green Lantern anyway. But yeah, he's hilarious. I love Merced's Hawk Girl. Don't know if you need to add that Hawk scream. I don't think that was necessary, but she looks great. I love them working it as a coordinated unit, because this is kind of like the early stage of the Justice League. However, in early scripts, you can look this up, they were intending to also throw in the Authority, which, because prior to Superman, they established as metahumans, but not one of them really have that shining beacon of hope like Superman does. So until Superman shows up, I want to say they were, metahumans, or at least the superheroes that are established, are all cynical. Not saying that, but it's just, they don't got that same ethos as Superman. And Superman comes around, now they're kind of looking at themselves kind of differently and moving, kind of forward kind of differently. But I'm glad they kind of did away with the whole Authority situation. I think they need to just put that somewhere separately somewhere, because this movie's already bloated as it is. And I think James Gunn is trying to, I want to say justify the world, or justify Superman in some kind of capacity, by just throwing in so much commentary as to why Superman is so important, and like what he will do in this kind of modern day scenario with social media and all this other stuff. You're trying to do too much just to, I don't know, try to get enough out just in case kind of situation, instead of just trusting in like minimal issues that he needs to tackle, and let it be the main focus. It's kind of like in the first two Richard Donner's film, Superman 1 and 2. It's like, yeah, you can set up Zod and his cronies, but they're too big to just throw in here. Save that for the second film, and have just Superman just establish himself, save people, and deal with Lex Luthor. Very simple arc. And of course, learning about like loss and how to deal with it, and that he possibly can't be everywhere at once. And it's just like, yeah, there's just at max. Two things that Superman has to deal with in terms of, because yeah, he is, because a lot of people complain, oh, he's too powerful, we can't relate to him. That's not the point. Superman is an idea. He's like the symbol of what we want to strive to be in terms of morality. And you challenge him by challenging his morality, or have him face an opponent via the mind like Lex Luthor, or something that challenges his power set like something like the Parasite, or Brainiac, but that's more of the mind too, or something like Doomsday that challenges his powers and something no other hero can take on, only Superman can. Yeah, that's how you make him a compelling character, because you're challenging him on something that he cannot easily just outpunch, or can't outpunch at all. That's what makes him such an intriguing character after all these years. You can do it right. You just gotta have competent writers to give a crap. And I'm so glad we are back to actually an honest to goodness, salt of the earth, Boy Scout Superman, and none of this deconstructing evil Superman that we've been inundated with for the past several years. It's so annoying. It's been done to death. I want to ignore it. That being said, we got Ultraman, which we find out it's, I guess, a Bizarro, because typically clone Superman turns out to be Bizarro, but they literally call him Ultraman. I'll get to that in a second. So we also got the Engineer. They break into Lex. They and Lex break into Superman's fortress, and because Ultraman is a clone of Superman because of a strand of hair that Luthor picked up from one of Superman's battles, is able to just break in to the Forces of Solitude, kidnap the dog, and hack the Fortress's console to hear the recording of Clark's parents, where there's a message that got broken up along the way as he was like being delivered to Earth. And after Superman and the Injustice Gang stopped that creature, Lex sent the footage out to widespread media with a completed message, thanks to at least 15 different linguists out there in the world. And they decoded the message that, yeah, the first part is what Superman knows, that he sends you to Earth so you can be taken care of and looked after, and like the typical stuff that we expect from Jor-El's parents that we all are familiar with. But then James Gunn decided to throw in that they're weak, you should have no problem ruling over them to make sure, and anybody gets way, you can nobody will be able to stop you. Have many kids so you can reestablish the Kryptonian legacy. And Superman's taken aback a bit, and now like the widespread public, by and large, are questioning Superman. And it's like, oh, you pulled the wool over our eyes. You was gonna enslave us all. And of course, Superman's like, I don't know any of this stuff. This is, the first part is correct, but the second part is Deming was aware of. And I doubt that the Forces of Solitude, with alien technology that he could not decrypt, but because it's Lex Luthor, somehow he's able to decrypt it, along with some other linguists, managed to pull that. That part is just like kind of weird, but whatever. You can wrap your mind about it being comic book logic. Well, but what is not, in my opinion, is the fact that they pretty much, at least James Gunn pretty much bastardized Superman's biological parents, demonized them to all hell. This works in an Elseworld story, not in a mainline thing, and they never fixed it. I would have been more okay with it if they, if it was written. I'm pretty sure maybe that was the first draft, or maybe after the second or third draft, it was like, no, this kind of works better, blah blah blah. But it's just like it doesn't sit well with me and many other people apparently that, Superman's biological parents is kind of like assholes that kind of expect their son to kind of rule over this planet, given the yellow sun would make him pretty much like a god. So it's just like that only works if it's an Elseworld story, but in the mainline stuff, you gotta kind of fix that. I was kind of half expecting. I think a lot of people have expecting. Oh, Lex is pretty much just manipulated to make us hear what he wants us to hear, and then after decoding and revaluing the message, it turns out, yeah, it's been doctored. That's not what it really said. No, James Gunn kept that in and made it like legit, and it's like, I don't like that. Okay, that is like, why would you do something like that to his parents, who, in many iterations, aside from certain Elseworld stories, he had pretty good, well-meaning parents that just wanted him to live and be okay. And the whole line's like, they're good people. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show them the way. That's why I sent them you. That kind of erodes that iconic line that to this day is one of my favorite Superman kind of, ethos, where, yeah, sure, Superman's kind of like a Jesus Moses allegory, but it works. And it kind of like blew all that up. I really do not care for that. I mean, at the very least, you could have done is just kind of wrap that up and fixed it. Maybe if this movie gets a sequel, he will fix it. And then Lois, after Superman finds out Krypto is missing and his home is trashed, he goes find Lex and he bursts in like the Kool-Aid man, and I'm pretty sure everybody who owns a dog, like I don't own any pets, but I can sympathize. He, darn near about to crush Luthor's desk. And I love like Nicholas Hoult, this whole smooth move where Lex knew what he's about to do, so he just picks up his coffee. I was like, as Superman just kind of chucks that sucker, and darn near about to toss it out the freaking window. And it's like, where's my dog? He's just a dog. Please give me my dog back. And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Superman can't do anything, especially that Test Marker is recording on her phone. So he's just like, Superman looking like a threat, pretty much setting Superman up to ruin his reputation. So when he ultimately kills him, nobody will feel bad about it. So while Superman's home and Lois, talks with him, we see that, the first Superman image, the still image that was, sent out a year or so ago by, Warner Brothers, where he's Superman literally like putting on his boots as like a giant eyeballs attacking. And it turns out, because he has like a line where it's like, I kind of like, where it's like, oh, that's just a fifth dimensional creature. Like, it's not a big deal. They can handle it. Okay. Partially I like it and partially I don't. Reason I like it, because if you pretty much like threw in Mr. Mxyzptlk so casually, it's like, yeah, I dealt with him. Well, A, I kind of like it, but B is like, Mr. Mxyzptlk isn't like a nothing burger of a villain. It's like he's like an ultra powerful mega god that only Superman can take care of. It's like it's not something the Injustice gang can just solve, but apparently they do solve it. But it's like, do they know that the only reason to get rid of only way to get rid of him is having them make him say his name backwards? Do they know that? Because you definitely do. Clearly, you know about that freaking rogue. They don't know. They don't have a Mrs. Spicklet version of themselves to deal with. They don't have no Batmites. But also the fact that you save animals constantly along with people and buildings. You mean to tell me that you can't spare a few minutes of dealing with that threat while you're kind of moping? It's kind of weird. Kind of like talking out the both sides of your mouth kind of thing, James Gunn. But Clark and Lois have a heart-to-heart. They apologize to each other about the blow-up argument they had. But Clark decides to turn himself in because, wherever Lex is keeping his dog, no doubt he'll take him there. Because I need to know the dog is all right. So he turns himself into the government, which we see Rick Flag, not Rick Flag, but his father, who is also on Creature Commandos. But I'm not watching Creature Commandos. I don't, there's certain things there's very rare things I decide to not watch. I do not care for, not going to be bothered with it. Creature Commandos is one of those things. I don't care, because why would you start off your universe with Creature Commandos? I know he has a thing about taking eyeball characters and trying to prop them up. All kudos to you. And that's another thing. Before I get further into this story, here's my personal take. You've been at Marvel before. You know how this works. You need to establish the mainline Justice League first. If singular stories before you start futzing with abstract or off the wall kind of characters. Okay? You gotta have your, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter. Those are, and Flash, Barry Allen, Flash. Those are the core. And then through their own little stories, and then bring in them assembled together as a team to deal with Starro, which was the first time the Justice League came together to deal with this mind-controlling starfish that not one of them by themselves could deal with. That's the whole point of an ensemble team. As great as they are by themselves, there are certain things that's bigger than them. Then, through their sequels, you can start bringing in, like, Barry Allen can establish Wally West. Hal Jordan can establish John Stewart and Guy Gardner. This is me spitballing here. And then just et cetera, just building the world with these main people as like the foundations or like the tree trunk, while everything else is kind of branching off. So when you want to do something like Creature Commandos, the groundwork has already been laid and we kind of got used to everything else. So you can experiment with things like Creature Commandos. But it's James Gunn. He do what he kind of wants to, but it's his baby. But it's like, it's like I wasn't feeling it. But at least personally, other people like it. That's all well and good. I'm glad you like it. But while Superman's being turned over to Lex Luthor, and Luthor created some kind of pocket dimension where he's taking Superman into his own personal prison with people who are political prisoners or people who he just generally don't like an ex-girlfriend of his who tries to trash him on the internet. He has them hold up in cube-like cells, and we even see like uh, monkeys that is being controlled to constantly write on social media to trash Superman. Here's the thing. I don't think that's needed. Because you already laid the groundwork to have people hate Superman. The general public can just do that on their own. You don't really need to feed or manipulate social media to generate bots to trash Superman and cause like an influx of Twitter hate. You don't really need that extra step. I don't think this is like, it seems, that's what I'm talking about. You're doing too much in one film. You're gonna take that out. Wouldn't really, you can take the whole monkey thing out. Doesn't change nothing of the film. You still got your online hate via the just natural organic course. But we see Metamorphose being held up against his will, and he literally has his baby held up, being monitored by a guard in like a cell opposite of him. Metamorpho generates a kryptonite hand to keep Superman sedated, while Lex brings in that guy who helped him up out of the crater earlier in the film. And this is a moment where it really cemented that, oh, Nicholas Hoult makes an excellent threatening Lex Luthor, where he literally plays Russian roulette with this innocent man and kills him right in front of him, which is kind of like, look, I'm not a huge fan of James Gunn's style of comedy, but there's a few bits that did give me a laugh, like Lex's little comment. It's like, wow, that kind of ended kind of quickly. I was kind of expecting to drag out a little bit more, but well, I'll find somebody else to shoot in front of you, because he's trying to get answers for him for certain, like government, because they need answers and stuff like that. So that's why he didn't kill him right away. But he, after witnessing that, Metamorpho decides to help Superman if he agrees to first help his baby boy, which is weird because we see Metamorpho's girlfriend later on, and it's like, how does that, it looks like an alien baby, and it's like, you coming from, because his name is Rex Mason, and it's like, he's still human, just like a meta-human now. I don't know, like I'm asking too many freaking questions, but it's just weird that he has like a baby that looks like an alien, look like a Martian. It'll make more sense to be Martian Manhunter's kid more so than Metamorphose. But he generates a faux sunlight, which recharges Superman's abilities. He bursts out, saves the kid. He punches the guy. I'm shocked that this guy didn't turn to paste. He saves the baby, which once again feels bloated. Didn't really need to add all this crap. But while Lois Lane goes to the Justice Gang, try to convince them to help Superman since they're supposed to be his friends, but only Mr. Terrific shows up, takes his ship to fly to, because apparently he injected nanites in all his essentially co-workers, so he can be able to track them just in case, which is kind of weird because I guess none of them really realize that. So even if Superman would have died, the nanites will still be in his system for him to track. So they fall down to this beachhead where we see like an awesome fight by Mr. Terrific as he takes out a bunch of goons there using his T-spheres, which Lois jokingly says T-circles, but no, circles are flat 2D flat surfaces. Spheres are three-dimensional. But what I did not care for, which is like, I know it's James Gunn's shtick, where it's like, oh, you got a needle drop as you do this, camera circle turn, which the fight itself is cool looking. I don't really need the needle drop. Some might like it, but it's like, okay, you kind of ran this thing into the ground. It's already been played out by the time we got to the third Guardians film. You kind of don't really need to do all that. Speaking of the circle turn camera thing, the fish lens thing, look, it's good in small doses. He's using it a lot. Although, that being said, when it's used correctly, it looks amazing, because the difference between Gotham and Metropolis, you doing something like a Batman, like like Matt Reeves the Batman, Gotham City looks congested. There's dark corners everywhere. It's a gothic landscape, right for something like Batman, who's kind of a detective and he's dealing with psychopaths and kind of grounded villains in a sense. Superman, Metropolis, very big, very like world of tomorrow, city of tomorrow kind of thing. So it's very spacious. So when you see Superman really utilizing his powers, which looks amazing, and he's up in the air and he's fighting all these little cronies with these battle suits on, and you see him utilize his laser vision, his super breath, the freeze breath, and super strength, and zipping around. You need the space and a camera pan out so you can really see all that being utilized effectively. I think that was amazing. That looks really, really good. But after Superman rescues the kid and Metamorpho, Lois takes Mr. Terrific's ship, as he stays behind to look after this the portal machine, which he says should not mess with science like this, because you can easily tear open like a black hole in our reality. Lois flies the ship to the Kent farm, which you dated him 3 months and you never once mentioned that you are familiar where he lives exactly, unless Clark said it off screen or something. I'm not sure, but she meeting essentially in Clark's parents in an awkward time right now. But he takes him home to rest up in his childhood room, and so she goes off back to Metropolis to feed the story, which Jimmy, with his informant being Eve Tessmacher, who he apparently has been banging in order to get, essentially pumping her for information, if you will. I'm kind of glad this is my Jimmy Olsen. I don't need no black Jimmy Olsen. I don't need no Jimmy Olsen that you kill in the first 5 seconds of a film. No, this is he doesn't need to be a super dork either, but this is like a happy medium of Jimmy Olsen. This is yes, this is Jimmy Olsen. This is how you do Jimmy Olsen. You don't need to make him super wormy or dorky. You don't need to be all cool, suave black guy. You don't need to wipe him out like he's like a nothing burger of a character. He matters in the ethos of Superman as a supporting character. He's treated with respect, and you give him a little bit of a lady killer, but you don't need to overdo it. I kind of appreciate that. So they managed to get out the information about what Lex has been doing, because Eve Tessmacher does all this selfies, but kind of a big coincidence, a very easy kind of setup where it's she just so happened to be taking selfies, and right behind her is very incriminating evidence that you got it just right to nail Lex Luthor against the wall. Barely an inconvenience. So they pretty much found out that Lex set everything up so he can have the country that dictator wants to eradicate the people on, so Luthor can set up shop there and essentially be king of a country to make his own utopia, so to speak. And of course Superman kind of interferes with all that stuff, as to leads into why he's going so gung-ho with them, with not only that, but the fact that he admits that, yeah, I'm envious of him because, you know, like I built myself up. I should be the one that people look up to because I'm a human being. You're just a thing in my eyes that kind of swoop down, and you didn't work for anything. You just have this godlike power and blah blah blah. Typical Lex stuff. Which I like the speech that Nicholas Hoult kind of, said this diatribe, and it's really good. It's not like your cliche villain monologue. This kind of like perfectly is organically set up as a monologue. I want to talk about the Kent parents. This is not my favorite Kents at all. I think like outside of the first Superman Richard Donner film, the only other Kent parents that I really like was from the Smallville TV show with John Snyder and what's her name, who played Lana Lang in Superman 3. I forgot her name, but she played by Annette O'Toole. And it's like those probably like the best interpretation of the Kent family by far. These look like, and I'm pretty sure it might be accurate, but they are played like they're Southern Hicks, and they kind of lean on way too thick with that. And it's like, oh god, it's just like your brain is trying to wrap your mind around, like, okay, how did these people raise that guy? And there's no thorough line. Because you look at Christopher Reeve's Superman film, you see the parents, especially the dad, you can buy like, yeah, these people taught that guy. You look at Tom Welling's Superman, and you look at like the parents in the TV show, yeah, there's like a through line where like, yeah, I can buy those parents raising this kid. I cannot buy these parents raising this guy. I cannot buy that. It's not like he was playing it bad. It's just that you gave some wrong direction here. They're Midwestern, and sure, I'm from the Midwest. There's some people that kind of talk with a bit of a Southern thing, but not like a twang or a drawl. That leans further like Texas or Mississippi type of Southern drawl kind of thing. And it's kind of like you're doing too much. And why you got John Kent like a weepy mess, and it's like, I'm so proud of you. And I was like, oh my god, like, you don't need to, like, yeah, sure, I'm not saying he needs to be an emotionless robot, but he doesn't need to be a weepy mess at the same time. Like I said, like, John Snyder's John Kent was like pitch perfect, man, because he has some like some stoicism. He has like an air of like salt of the earth wisdom. But I do like the line he has in this film where it's like, parents, it's not the parents' job to tell the kid what they need to be. I like that line, but I can do without the blubbering mess. I can do without the hick attitude. It's just like, you don't need to do exactly what we saw from Smallville, but in my opinion, there's like a good balance for a modern Kent family, parental knowledge thing. I do also appreciate that you don't have that whole thing like, oh, let me die in a tornado, let those kids die in that school bus. I'm glad we don't, because like I said, it's kind of like trying to not stick it to Zack Snyder, but it shows like, we want like a good, honest, like Kent family, people that would raise a proper kid and wants and encourage them to help people. But him and Krypto go back to the city as Mr. Riffic sees that because what Lex created, there's like a break in reality. Superman takes on the engineer, and Ultraman deals knocks the engineer unconscious and fights Ultraman, who, like I said, turns out to be a clone. And amongst the fight, thanks to Crypto taking out those cameras, is kind of feeding information to Ultraman as to how to fight, because it's literally like a fight between brains and bronze, because Lex is pretty much giving coordinated attacks towards Ultraman to follow suit. Now, I would have preferred that we actually utilize and turn him into Bizarro, where it's like, because not only you destroy the cameras, but the fight kind of messing up Ultraman to the point where it's like his brain chemistry is getting out of whack. He's not a completed clone. He's a little off, and his powers gets wonky where he's shooting freeze, eye blast and heat, flamethrower breath. And he speaks in opposites. I would have loved that, because that'd be like, yeah, establish Bizarro. But after, was an awesome display where Superman actually breaks his own arm just to fling Ultraman into like debris to knock him into the black hole. And in my mind, which the end credits are kind of like a nothing burger, just so you know, but in my mind, I thought like, oh, since he's going through this black hole, might be a multiversal thing, he gets thrown into Earth 3 where the crime syndicate is, and establish him as Ultraman, because evil Superman is Ultraman in that universe where he is leading the crime syndicate. I thought that was going to lead into that, but maybe in the future, who knows, bring that back around. I was like, oh wow, he broke his own arm just to defeat this guy. It's kind of sick. But thanks to Injustice Game dealing with stuff with that dictator, which Hawkgirl kills straight up. It's like, you're a hero. We know, superheroes like you and Superman won't kill me. And it's like, I'm not Superman. And drops him to his death. And it's like, yep, because there are a handful of superheroes in the DC universe that, push come to shove, won't hesitate to kill you. And that's real. Wonder Woman is like that, because she is a bred warrior like Hawkgirl, has no qualms of, if need be, for the greater good, will kill you. John Constantine won't hesitate. If it need be, he will kill you. It's just one of those things. Except if they're around somebody like Batman and Superman, and of course, and like Green Lantern, of course, they won't do it. So Superman confronts Lex, who gives Lex this awesome speech, which obviously won't do nothing to sway Lex at all. But it's like, look, I'm just as human as anybody else. I'm afraid, I cry, I bleed, just like the rest of you. But I try every day to do what I can for people. And then all that gets really undercut when Crypto comes swinging in and throws Lex around like a rag doll and breaks his arm. Eventually, Lex get arrested. But then the movie ends with Supergirl coming back from getting drunk in space. So we get the actress. We get to see the actress in her Supergirl mode for a little bit, which she plays it. Just the little bit we get, she plays it pretty well. I still have a warm spot for Melissa Benoist's Supergirl from CW. She really knocked it out of the park in her portrayal of Supergirl for a good handful of years, and I'm just used to that. So it'll be kind of interesting to see this actress, because when her movie comes into play, we get to see what her adventures was while Clark was looking after Crypto, which is technically her dog. And I know the comic that adventure will be based on. I only read a little bit. I might reread it again, but I could not get through it because I didn't really like the art and the dialogue. I remember it being super wordy. It's like maybe once since it's fully complete, like it's been long since completed a while ago, I might reread it again at some point. But it's just like, man, I could not go through it. I read probably like the first few issues and I kind of like, kind of fell off of it. But anyway, yeah, that is just my thoughts overall with the movie. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out in its second week, because 2 weeks from now Fantastic Four will come out, and I'm getting super annoyed with Pedro Pascal, and they're just trying to hang the MCU, make him like the new RDJ of the MCU moving forward after Doomsday, and I just like can't with Pedro Pascal. This guy is super weird, and I'm at the point where I just honestly don't care for him as a person. But we'll see how that movie turns out. And I have less hopes for that, and I had more hopes for Superman than I do with like Fantastic Four. But overall, in conclusion with this film, I really think that this, in my personal opinion, is barely eking out a win for me. It's like it's like a fine film. I really like it. It's like a 7 out of 10 in my opinion, just barely above average. But that's just my personal take. As the audience is pretty much split with just the positive, just slightly, if you're being realistic, it's just slightly above more than the people who dislike it. But I think the people who dislike the two main things, and I think when people are disliking about this, the bloated, story beats, and the whole Jor-El parent, change they did, pretty much bastardizing their memory essentially. And it's like, people are not jiving well with that at all. But I think if they would have minimized the arcs and not mess with that line, or at least mess with the biological parents like that, or at least wrap it up at the tail end to come swinging back around to like reestablish a good reputation with the parents, it would have fixed a lot of people's opinions about the film. At least that's my opinion on the matter. But like I said, for me, 7 out of 10, it's a fine film. Not the second coming of Jesus or anything like that either, but it's just like, it's a fine film. It's all right to have just fine films. You don't need to solve all your world's problems, but at the same time, you don't need to hate it for the hate's sake either. But anyway, I'm curious to know what you guys think in the comments below. Try to be reasonable, give it like an actual fair criticism. But yeah, I'm legit curious to know what your guys' thoughts on, because I've been eager to talk about this for a minute, but I think I got off my chest of what I really want to talk about. But yeah, solid start to the cinematic universe, especially if James Gunn don't futz with too much stuff while trying to play in this massive sandbox and doing too much crap, and trust in other directors to do their own thing in their creative process and not trying to micromanage every little thing, because that's what Kevin Feige and all the Disney and doing with all their movies and other projects, where they mucking with stuff and there's no real true creativity with all these directors. It's a whole mess. And keep that guy off the red carpet was like, oh, this is the gayest Star Wars you ever seen. That guy needs to be pulled off the red carpet and stop asking James Gunn and his brother about like what do you think of the MAGA supporters and what they think about this? And it's like, why are you actively trying to cause a controversy? That is not fair to these directors and actors. Stop that. Don't do that to them. You're trying to provoke a Rachel Zegler moment, and that is not fair. Stop it. Leave them alone. Ask normal. You don't need to be softball questions, but ask normal questions. Stop trying to drum up unnecessary controversy just to prop up your career. That is not fair and it's not right. I hate that. Don't do that to them. And then, of course, James Gunn's brother's biting into the apple, without thinking first. I'm pretty sure he's getting a nice talking to by Warner Brothers. But it's like, that guy needs to be pulled off the red carpet from reporting to these people. It's pretty much like the exact opposite of Lois Lane. Anyway, I'll see you guys in a little bit. I got more reactions to do for the channel, and might pop in to play some more Marvel Rivals. But in any case, I will see you guys in a little bit. Take care.